Hi, everyone. Welcome to A New View. I'm Juji, and I'm here with Shira, Lee, and Kim. We are four friends, speakers, and professionals from different cultures, backgrounds, and age groups coming together to offer healing and inspiration. Today, I want to talk about healing and forgiving our past selves. There's a mourning period sometimes when we're letting go of who we used to be. So who wants to go first?
I will. Oh gosh. So this topic is kind of a loaded one, I think, and it encompasses so much of, getting into the past, dissecting our past, and then thinking about certain times in our past, which there are so many different possibilities of times and experiences in which we may look at ourselves in a way today that we are so different, or we look at life so differently. And certainly for me, there are many periods of time in my past that I can look at and kind of say that I've mourned my own self, my old self. And there are so many selves in the past for me, and there's one that I was in my marriage, and then there's one that I was in my 30s or in 20s and teens. But I feel like one of the ways that I can describe my own mourning for my old selves is forgiveness. And it doesn't come though without a lot of self-exploration first, right? Like thinking about a certain time frame in my life, or certain experiences and what went down and how they went down, and what my feelings involved and what my perspective involved. And there were many, many, many that were not good, just left a bad taste in my mouth. And today, when I think back on those, I can say that there have been many experiences and times in my past lives, or my old self, that I got over and was able to push aside. And then there are a bunch of others that still come up. They still come up and they still impact my day-to-day today. But again, it's a whole forgiving myself kind of thing that I work on in order to also get over my past. But and it's not as simple as also just saying I forgive myself. It's like going back there. Sometimes it's feeling those same feelings, and sometimes it's like there are so many times that I can say, like, I regret doing this. I regret staying in my marriage. I regret not doing this. But but it's different when you put any regret aside and just kind of say, it's okay. What happened. I forgive the old self. And what can I do? And what am I doing today to make it different, or not make some of the same past mistakes? So yeah, there are many multiples of me that I have mourned, and I'm sure will be mourning, and trying to clear that out, as I get older. And hopefully by the time I die and people mourn for me, hopefully I will have mourned all of my old self on my own.
Lee, could you give us an example of like one older self that you mourned and like what that was like?
Yes. Yes, I have a lot of examples, but the one that pops into my mind for now is my marriage. So I was married for 17 years, and I knew from way in the beginning that something was not right. It just wasn't right. It wasn't, we had some good times. We did. We had some really good and fun times, but just really in the way beginning, and a few years into the marriage, what unfolded was a lot of things that did not resonate with me, that I kind of had little inkling ideas of in the beginning of the marriage. There was a lot of lying. There was a lot of, hiding things from me. And I went along with it, and I kind of made it okay, because back then my story was everything's fine. Everything's fine. I was in denial. And I also was too embarrassed to admit that I was not in a perfect relationship. And so I sucked it up, and I stayed with it for a very long time. And then I realized, I think towards the end, that I was not only lying to myself, but I was miserable. I was just not happy at all in my marriage. And this is one of the selves that I now can say that, I forgive. I didn't know any better. I didn't really ever dive into any of those feelings. I didn't see them. I today can say clearly, like, I was so ignorant in so many ways and in so many different times in my life that it amazes me. It's like, wow, like how, like my eyes have been so opened to so many things, and they continue to be so. And that's why it was easy to forgive myself, because I'm like, I didn't know and I didn't realize. And it's in the same way that I forgave, my parents for not being there all the time when I was growing up, to help with this and to get involved with that. It's because they didn't know, like they were so focused on trying to do the best that they could at the time. So yeah, that would be one of the bigger times in my life, or time frames and experiences, that I went back and I mourned that old me, and definitely forgave myself. And it absolutely, definitely 1,000% is not even an issue today at all.
I'm having it's interesting, because I wasn't part of like the main rehearsing or conversing about this topic, and so I'm having like a very visceral reaction to a memory. Well, my mourning my former self, but definitely not in a way that I was anticipating. So I feel like I'm mourning the mother that I used to be. And let me explain. I raised my children with so much love and so much confidence, and almost like this is the thing in my life that brings me the most joy, that I do well. And I just remember feeling so happy as a mom. And now I'm in a situation where my son doesn't really talk to me. And it just made me realize that I miss the mother that I was. Because I don't get to be that mother right now. And it freaking kills me. So I'm like mourning that. I'm mourning the competent mother that I was.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah, it's really painful to think about that, because it just always brought me so much joy.
Yeah. But you know what? Also remember that you always did love so much, and you always did everything that you could, and it is
Well, the interesting thing that's happening for me is that over the last few years, I've had so many aha moments ever since I left my marriage, and had so many realizations about my people pleasing and my robotic and my everything's fine and just covering up and hiding the shame and just all of those things. And I feel like clearly that influenced my parenting through the years. Like you're not just one way, one with one person, another way with another person. Like that's just who I was. So it was like a blessing and a curse. Like I was always so happy and joyful, and oh my God, I'm a mom. Like this is amazing. And now when I look back, and it's like, yeah, but all of that like fake not getting in touch with your emotions, allowing people to mistreat you and all of that, like that also happened. So it's like my positive rose-colored glasses were absolutely a blessing and a curse. And because I've had so many epiphanies about myself, I feel like I want to share those with him, and I can't. I mean, I can't right now, but I hope to one day, because, you know, when you grow as a person and now you have adult children, you're just like, I want to share it with you. Like, no, all of it, like, I want to know how you perceive things when you were growing up. It's clearly not what I thought. Clearly not what I thought. So it's just very cathartic for me to actually have this awareness right now, and also hope, totally have hope that that the truth will prevail. You know, like, I know a lot more truths now about
Yeah.
who I am, what I went through. I know the truth. I've uncovered the truth.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
And Shira, I feel like a lot of that work that we do to better ourselves and the things that we've discovered and, you know, are for us. They're for us first and foremost, no matter what. And it doesn't take away from the fact that you should still be able to celebrate the mother that you were to your kids when they were living with you.
Sure, for sure, for sure. Look, when you know better, you do better, right? But you don't get to go back and re-raise your children. Because I always told my kids, I'm like, I'm gonna fuck you up somehow. Promise you. Somehow you will be screwed up. And it's on you to figure it out. Like, that's the beauty of the journey that we call life. It's not to just stay static and just, you know, be a robot and go through your life. It's about like, oh, like having aha moments, learning about yourself, building your confidence, being able to see your former self in the rearview mirror, being able to mourn yourself. But there's just something so precious about being a young mom that, you know, and look, I had difficulties with my kids as teenagers also, like, you know, the usual stuff. But there's just this essence of, I felt so good. Like, my mothering was my thing, that I knew I was doing well. So I'm just mourning. Again, I don't want it to come across like, well, you're not doing it well now. Like, I know I am, and there are other things at play. But they're just it's just very yummy memories of being a mom to young children.
Amen.
I have like so many things that I want to respond, and I'm gonna try to like not only keep it brief, but like make it make sense. Because we've used the term doing the work a lot in these past couple of episodes, including this one. And I want to kind of pinpoint why we call it work, because what we're talking about is noticing a behavioral pattern and then understanding that what it takes to undo those patterns or redirect the way that you respond to things is to trace back where it came from. And once you've traced it back, it's living inside of you. It's living in your psyche. It's something happens to you, you perceive it to be something about yourself, and then that's who you become. It's like a headline for who you are, and it lives in your psyche. And when you trace it back, it takes some work to like move that out. It takes work to, there's so many methods for how to move it out. Like, for me, it's mostly crying and walking, and I do sound healing and tapping and things like that. So the physical energy needs to move out, but it takes time, first of all. And then what I perceive the real work to be is that when you're presented with something, to not immediately jump back to the old way. And that takes a significant amount of dedication, energy, and just like perseverance. That's why I feel like doing this work is so brave, because first of all, you're like looking all of your monsters in the eye.
That's what I was going to say. First, you have to face it.
Right.
You can do all the rest of them.
You're facing the thing first. You're re-feeling it. You're allowing yourself to re-feel those things. And it's very uncomfortable because you stuffed that down, like that's in the closet somewhere, you've handled it, right? But now you're looking at it again and you're like, it's like I'm right back to like that time that the girls in the locker room told me that I should start wearing deodorant because I smell bad. Like that was a trauma,
Oh my
you
God.
know, like fast forward to my collection of perfume and like the 4 cans of deodorant that I have in my, in my bathroom. I wouldn't even call that a silly example because it was the first time that I started to feel unsafe with other women.
Mm.
And I just started to assume that women were going to hurt me. And when you walk around just assuming that women are always judging you, that they're out to get you, that they're going to hurt you, those are the types of friendships that's how you enter into friendships. And when I had to like trace that back to, the bullies in the locker room, there's so many things that stemmed from that. And there's so many unhealthy behaviors I've exhibited over the years when it comes to female friendships that I just, one of the things was like, I was kind of a bully after a while, like I was kind of a mean girl for a while. Like, let me do it first so that I can circumvent you talking shit about me.
Right.
And that never felt good. It never felt aligned. I didn't understand because I loved women at the same time. Like I was always looking for my tribe, but like, how was I ever going to find them if I was constantly viewing them women through the lens of you're going to be a jerk, you're going to judge me, you're going to talk about me behind my back. So things like that is what it really takes. And then refeeling that horrible feeling, looking it in the eye, dismantling it, and then learning to approach women and friendship. And all of you have been such a pivotal part of that, of like, I can get real support from women. And when I stopped looking for women to be horrible to me, I found women who were wonderful to me. Like, how amazing is that? But it really took time to trust. And it also took time to mourn the person that I was, who was mean and who didn't have very authentic connections. And then inevitably, all of those women who I didn't have super authentic connections with would eventually do exactly what I expected them to do. It was a self-fulfilling prophecy. They would walk out of my life. They would talk shit about me. They did all the things that I knew they would.
Well, you probably felt safe in your cocoon also, right? Like I'm going to be here, so you can't hurt me, Wow.
Totally.
Wow. What a transformation.
My mind is spinning a little bit right now. I was really struggling with what to contribute to this episode today because my mind is just spinning and I feel like I'm in the figuring it out. It's in my wave. And there's so many things that I want to give examples about, but like, they're all like, which one is like, what would make the most impact? Like it's, wow.
I know we have thousands, right?
Well, because I think of just so many topics, like so many different aspects, like relationships, money, this, that, like there's just so much. So it's honestly really overwhelming. I feel very overwhelmed right now, but something that just listening to you guys is coming up for me. And I'm just going to talk about it. I don't know what the point is yet, but when I was younger and definitely people pleasing, wanting people to love me, always looking for love outside of myself, wanting to fit in, wanting to be liked, all the things when I was young. The one feeling that definitely stands out to me that I remember the most, and I actually, listening to you guys, I was thinking about this one time when I was young and I could actually feel the fear, like I physically felt it. but scared. I was always scared. Like scared seemed to be just always hiding inside of my cells. And, you know, if somebody said something and the girl was like mean to me, like that was scary to me. And I didn't speak up for myself. And there was a lot of little instances like this throughout my life. And, you know, Sharon, listening to you, I was like, yeah, there's something there for me to really go back and mourn. And I don't know if I have or not, honestly. I really want to take a look at that after this episode. I just remember not expressing myself, and then like throughout my life, and there was this feeling of fear for sure. Scared of what? I don't know. Rejection, looking bad, someone yelling at me, their reaction, all of it. And then as I got into my 30s, there was like a few things I'll never forget. I'll never forget the first time I was dating someone and I spoke up for myself, because I just got to this point of like, fuck this shit. Like, I don't care. I'm just going to ask him if he likes me or not, because I can't stand these games. Like, I just remember I got to this point of like, just really feeling frustrated. And then I was just like, do you like me or not? Because you call me once every 7 days. Like, what the fuck? You know? And so, but I remember like, there was this shift where all of a sudden I was like, that felt good. I need to talk to men who I date and tell them how I feel. Like, hello, why did that freaking take me so long? And then I remember being in a job where for years, I never asked for a raise. I never asked for anything. I was always scared. What if they say no? What if they do, right? It's like, but I remember my boss said to me once, I was fighting for someone else. It was very easy for me to fight for someone else's raise. And I was fighting for someone else's raise. And I said to her, you know, I'd really love it if we could possibly get him like 20 more bucks a day or something. And she was like, well, did he ask? I said, no. She said, let him ask. She said, you got to ask for what you want. If you don't ask me for it, I'm not going to give it to you. And I literally like that, like blew my mind, because I was like, I don't ask.
Right.
I don't ask. So I asked, but I remember the first time I asked for a raise, it was like, I thought I was going to die. I was so scared, and I was just, my heart was beating, I was sweating. And I was like, why is this so hard to ask for something I know I deserve, you know? And it stems back to unworthiness. And maybe I don't want to look at that. I don't know, but I have a lot to think about today. Let's put it that way.
Wow.
That's interesting. You know, I never had a difficult time asking for a raise, but I absolutely did have feelings of unworthiness in many other ways and situations. So that's very interesting, you know. So there's like a money thing there. But, you know, I also wanted to add that for whoever is listening, you know, to this episode, mourning our past selves is not something that, you know, you should just kind of sit there and necessarily, I don't think about like, what can I mourn, you know, because we don't necessarily want to take ourselves to a bad place or a negative place or bring up shit that's just not there. But if something is there, or if you recognize that there is a problem or there is an issue and it's stemmed from something in your past, then certainly that might be a good time to, you know, uncover it and then recognize the old self and how it affected you, and maybe do something differently today, because we get to choose. We get to choose to do things differently. We get to choose to say things and respond to things and experience things. It's our choice. It's our choice. So I just wanted to highlight that first, there needs to be some kind of a recognition, a consciousness of something in your past that may have, you know, not served you well.
All right, guys, I think this is a really good place to wrap it up. Stay tuned for part 2 of our discussion about mourning our past selves. If you've enjoyed this conversation, please subscribe to our channel and be sure to let us know if you have any topic requests or questions by commenting below. We'll see you soon. Thank you for watching. Ciao for now.